Welcome to Adventure Freaks, a podcast on living abroad on a budget.
All right, so today we are heading over to Montenegro, and my new friend is Valentino Devasco. And Valentino is a truly unique man. He's traveled all over the world. He's been to 45 different countries, Valentino?
Something like that. I don't have the exact number. I stopped counting.
Yeah. And he has landed in the beautiful destination of Montenegro. And a lot of people have asked me about this particular country. I don't know a lot about it. Valentino lives there. He has some properties there, and he is going to share his wisdom. But first, I'm going to pull up a map to show everybody where Montenegro is. So let me share this, Valentino. I love the
people usually hear about the Adriatic, right? So there's Italy and that beautiful area of the coast.
Yeah.
And then right across the boot of Italy, you find this area that is the Balkans, ex-Yugoslav states. Montenegro's the smallest, I think, country after the ex-Yugoslav war. And I would say it has so many things to offer people right now. Croatia is the go-to for tourists. Right?
Yeah.
Montenegro receives far more tourists from Eastern Europe, which is something I can appreciate a lot because my wife is Russian and I speak Russian, and I appreciate Slavic culture to a great extent.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Croatia caters mostly to Western Europeans. So that's one huge difference, right? Croatia is European Union, Montenegro's not. We only have a tiny little bit of coast, but we also have something that I think is truly special, and that's Boca Bay. And Boca Bay is one of the jewels of natural wonder in the world. They call it the Southern Fjords, right?
Okay.
And basically, it's two bays, one after another, surrounded by mountains that are around 1,000 to 1,800 meters tall. So the views are extremely extraordinary.
Yeah.
And that's basically what made the cinching, element in my decision to stay specifically in Montenegro and not some other nearby country that I also have found to appreciate a lot.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, it's like kind of like directly across from Rome if you go across, and it's located in such a perfect area. You have access to so many amazing places over there.
Well, one of my local friends, he likes to tell me Montenegro is as far south as you can get, where you still have green everywhere. And then it just starts getting sandy and sunny and sunny and sunny and sunny. And of course we get sun, but it's also pure vegetation in our area.
Yeah, sure. Well, okay. Let me see here. So, all right. So now the extraordinary life that you live, Valentino, you originate from Peru, Lima.
Right. Yeah.
You've been an actor, you're an artist, but you're a human being. Valentino wanted to be acknowledged as a human being. But you've had this extraordinary experience in life, in travel. So my first question is, of all of these places, how did you land in Montenegro?
Well, I fell in love with a number of countries before I ended up here in the Balkans, and I can definitely say that finding the Balkans was an accident, because sadly in South America we are heavily influenced by North American news, information, and social media, and have no idea about Yugoslavia or the socialist ex-republics that existed in this part of the world, where actually, surprisingly, to my surprise, socialism was extremely beneficial for the local populace. So this is something really curious that took me years to get into and learn about, but it's very evident in their culture that for various reasons, maybe even genetic reasons and reasons of culture and tradition, they were able to embrace socialism as of course we should take care of our brother. It wasn't like okay, we have to accept this whole new code of ethics and laws and rules. That is not our norm. For them, embracing socialism was like, well, that makes a lot of sense. We already kind of live that way. And that attracted me so much when I came here. I came in 2016. I
Okay.
bought a motorcycle in Eastern Russia. This was my third motorcycle trip. Bought a motorcycle in Eastern Russia,
Wow.
drove across Russia and the Caucasus and Mongolia. And when I arrived in the Balkans, I was just surprised because I had no idea what to expect. I had met one Macedonian girl in Peru years ago in a club. And I was like, okay, you know, Macedonia, first time I've ever heard of it. I remember the lake she told me to go check out. So I went over there in Macedonia and I was just like, what is this place? You know, this is amazing. What is this quality of life people have here? What is this friendliness? What is this hospitality, this openness? You don't find it in all of the world. True, the world is a very nice place to travelers, right?
Mm.
But the special brand of hospitality that the Balkans has to offer is so genuine and it looks for so little in return. It doesn't need something back from you. You know, it's not a taking kind of hospitality. It's just an offering of friendship. Hello, neighbor. You know what I mean? In the Christian term of neighbor, it's
Sure.
very beautiful. And so that made me want to stay in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Over the last 5 years, I definitely checked out every possible place. At one point, I was thinking of Croatia, but the price to come in to Croatia is just too high
Gotcha.
for a lot of people, right? The price of real estate, the price of daily life on the Croatian coast. If you can afford it, amazing. It's beautiful. It definitely has more cultural happening things than Montenegro does, but it's, you know, I'm talking about 40% higher cost of entrance than
Mm-hmm.
Montenegro, 50% or more.
Yeah, yeah.
And then also just the cost of living. So for me, Montenegro was the perfect combination of wild mountains, nature. I'm a biker, so here are amazing roads for motorcycles, for cyclists, for people who enjoy hiking and nature. But the cinch for me is the opportunities here. You
Mm.
know, I find this land to be full of opportunities because there are so many corners of market that are unexplored. There's so many niche markets waiting for someone to see things a little differently and go for
Mm-hmm.
them.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
example, I teach tango. Okay, so I have a formation in tango. I spent 5 years studying tango. And I did teach for a while when I was traveling. And over the last 6 months, I've been building up several groups of tango in different coastal towns near where I live in Herceg-Novi. And it's not like it's an raging success and there are tons of people who are interested in, because these are all small towns, you know, 1,000 people, 20,000 people. The big city is 40,000 people,
Yeah,
50,
yeah.
you know what I mean? They're all
Yeah.
small towns, but there are enough people that find this curious, that find this interesting to make it a niche market for me to explore,
Sure.
to make it something actually economically successful here.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you don't need to make a lot of money to live nicely here. That's one of the biggest attraction points in a world that right now is getting to insane levels of expensive.
That's
Even
right.
back
Yeah.
home in Lima, cost of living can be higher than here.
Yes.
And Lima is like, you know, it's a huge capital, not a very pretty or interesting city to live in for me, at least. Whereas here, you're on the coast in pristine Adriatic waters with this crazy nature all around you, with this beautiful Mediterranean vibe. And you're like, well, I do a lot of my work on a computer anyway. So
Yeah, yeah,
this is kind of as good as it gets for me.
yeah. Wow, man. You're I want to move there already.
You know,
You're
don't spread the
selling it,
word
buddy.
too much. I don't tell South Americans because I keep on telling my local friends, if only South Americans knew how safe it is here. Oh my God, they would just like come here by the droves and maybe it wouldn't be that
Well,
great anymore. But
yeah, no, it's a beautiful part of the world, and just the way that you describe it, it's really yeah, inspiring for sure. Now, when you say like you mentioned like quality of life, there's I mean, quality of life right now in Europe is pretty good. I mean, it's incredibly affordable all throughout Europe right now. But when you say quality of life and you're talking about the people, the culture, what did you notice that was different from like Croatia or some of these other places that you were in?
well, let's not compare Croatia so much as more
Okay.
Western Europe, because I've also spent quite a bit of time in Western Europe. And even though quality of life, like you said, is quite affordable if you're coming from America,
Yes.
for me, it's still quite high.
Okay.
personally for me. I feel like the quality of life to be able to live nicely, to go to some nice restaurants sometimes, to go to a cafe every day, to, have a drink in the bar every day, you need to be working a lot. And what happens is that thanks to a Yugoslav heritage here, the concept of work is very, very relaxed, and that can be good and bad. But
Hmm.
mostly I see it as a good thing because I don't like this idea of working your ass off to get by. It doesn't make sense to me. People should work hard, but have enough time in a day to enjoy what they do.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I mean quality of life, I mean, you don't have a high salary. You have a salary to get by nicely,
Sure.
but you have time to enjoy that nicely. To give you an idea, almost everybody that I know in this country goes to a coffee shop once or even twice a day. You ask me, what do they do for entertainment? They sit and have coffee with their friends. That's literally what they do every day. And for me, coming from South America, that's like, how do you afford this? Like, that's crazy. What's your salary? Oh, I make 600 euros. 600 euros? How can you afford this? He's like, well, how can I not afford it? I need to sit down with my friends and have a coffee. It's just part of the culture. It's the way life is
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Um, of course, when you look at salaries, it changes a lot when you work online. Okay,
Hmm.
so I have a lot of people in my immediate network who all work online. They're either programmers or do expat related services. And there are just so many niches waiting to be developed that cater to specific goods and quality needs that are existing and are, becoming a bigger thing in the market that locals don't quite understand
Hmm.
because they don't have that kind of exposure to travel. They don't have that kind of exposure to what other markets look like and how they can look like.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
basically do the same thing everywhere. All the
Mm.
cafes, all the restaurants, they basically do the same service wise, quality of product wise. And so it leaves a lot of room for improvement if you have some interesting ideas. There's again, like I said, so many ways in which you can improve on the concept of running a service or creating a good that meets the needs of a specific market that is particularly the expats who have been growing in population here over the last several years.
Hmm. Okay, great. Thank you. So what town do you live in Montenegro?
I live in Herceg-Novi. That's like an hour away from Dubrovnik. It's just after the border,
Okay.
Dubrovnik in Croatia, right? Game of Thrones, Dubrovnik. So I
Yeah,
live an
yeah.
hour south. I like it for a number of reasons. One of them be that it's one of the few towns that is really just an authentic town. It's not crazy driven by tourism like Kotor and Budva, which are huge tourism hubs, or even Tivat. It feels more authentic. So when you
Mhm.
walk up the streets, people still treat you like a neighbor and not as a tourist money kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Sure. Yeah. What's the name of the capital there?
Podgorica.
Okay.
Podgorica is not my favorite capital.
Okay.
I don't live here for a reason. I'm not particularly interested in Podgorica. I wouldn't be the best person to ask what it has to offer because I like seaside and it's not in the seaside.
Yeah. What's the population of the capital?
I think it's around 250.
250,000?
Yeah,
And what's the population of the town you live in?
40.
40. Okay.
Mhm.
And you're right along the sea there.
Yeah, I'm right on the sea. It used to be the capital of like art, literature, and all that kind of stuff during Yugoslav times, and I don't see that so much anymore. And I really hope it will change for the better because a lot of new talent is coming into town. A lot of writers and musicians and poets and painters that I know have been moving here for the last several years. So I think that's going to be a very nice opportunity for there to become a scene. Because right now,
Yeah.
if you ask me about a scene, culturally speaking, it's pretty dead, except for summertime.
Yeah, yeah. Where are these people coming from?
Let's see. I know a musician from England. I know another guy from France who's setting up a studio. A lot of Russian musicians are coming. A lot of Belarusian musicians are coming, and a few Ukrainians as well. So, like I said, we definitely cater more to Eastern Europe here.
Hmm.
But it's really a mixed bag of mostly European nationalities.
Yeah. Do you see anybody from the US moving over there?
A couple. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say too many because I don't think there's that much information about Montenegro available to people in the US.
No, it's
And
definitely
that's
off the radar.
interesting because, well, I think you're going to ask me next about like how do you actually get here, right? Because that's one of those things that is so attractive, how easy it is to get residency here.
Yeah, like the visa requirements. Yeah.
Exactly. There are like no visa requirements, basically. You need like a statement that you have not been in any kind of penal charges and stuff like this, a judicial statement. You need your, I don't know, university degree, and either you can buy some real estate and get a residency through your real estate, or you can open a company for peanuts, have it run discreetly for peanuts, and get a permanent residency like
Wow.
this. And this is not a weird scheme. It's just the normal standard that everybody
Just-
does.
Wow.
It's what everybody does. It's all legal. It's very clear cut. I like it because it's so easy, so
Yeah.
approachable.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
even need to be like a wizard with languages, but that does enormously help if you start learning a little bit of the local language. It goes miles in getting you around here.
Yeah. Yeah. How long did if you're in Italy and you want to can you take a boat across to Montenegro?
Yeah, there are several ports that will go. One specifically is Bari, right? So from
Yeah.
Bari,
Yeah.
Italy, you can take a ferry over to Bar in Montenegro. It's one of the southern cities, a big port city. I mean, big, 60,000 people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like 10 hours or 8 hours by boat. I haven't done the journey myself, so not
Okay.
sure.
So it's not too bad. All right. Well, let's get into real estate. I mean, I'm just shocked that it's that simple to get over there and there's no real visa requirements, making it that much more desirable. But what are the costs of like if somebody were to head over there, a digital nomad looking for a place to live, what are they going to pay for a decent flat per month? And does it include utilities? What's included in that?
Um, this really, Montenegro is all about where you are. So location, location, location. To give you an idea, Herceg-Novi has some of the expensiver side of purchase per square meter prices. However, rentals in Herceg-Novi are not as high as they can be in Tivat, which is by the Tivat airport, right? Where there's a lot of new developments. I mean, really, the whole coastline has doubled in its housing and accommodation options over the last 15 years, literally doubled. And I see that definitely happening in the next 10, 15 years, which is a pity because I love it how it is right now. It's just between being rural and having too much development.
Yeah.
Then I would say for a two-bedroom apartment, 70 square meters or something, you would be looking at maybe 800 euros of rent.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be something reasonable. Of course, high end would be 1,100. Lower end would be maybe 500. Right now, I rented the place with my parents because my dad didn't want to live in the little village by the water where I bought an apartment. So we rented that out for a really high price and moved into the actual city and found the perfect spot for ourselves without any agents, without any in-betweeners, just talking to neighbors. And we
Mhm.
found the best location. We're paying 500 euros for an 80 square meter, absolutely gorgeous apartment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Wow.
you can find really, really good opportunities and deals, especially if you speak the local language and are just nice to people and neighborly and just look around
Mhm.
yourself. Otherwise, you're looking at minimum 700, 800.
Yeah. And you speak the local language?
So I've been learning. I've been living here for maybe a year and a half. My local language is pretty reasonable. I can be understood and I can get by. Yeah.
Hmm. In the local or the language is it Montenegrin? Is that what they say?
Um. So yeah, that's an interesting discussion. You can call it Montenegrin. You can call it Serbian Croatian, and it's all very, very, very much a similar language. Definitely the same family. I wouldn't even call them dialects. But as linguists do say, the populations get to decide whether it's a dialect or language. So here they call them languages, but the differences are very small between these different language groups:
Gotcha.
Serbian, Croatian, and Montenegrin.
Okay.
Still, out of respect, we can call it Montenegrin.
Isn't there a lot of influence from Italy as well there?
Well, for those who like history, the Venetian Empire had a lot of these coastal cities under its flag, right? So a lot of Venetian architecture. In fact, in the south of Croatia and here in Montenegro, you can see a lot of the same stone that was taken back to Venice to build a lot of it. So definitely influenced, but 600 years ago, not in modern times.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So on the low end, you're saying you can get a flat for 500. You're looking at 800 for a pretty nice place, 2-bedroom, 75 meters square meter.
But this is on the coast, right? Because I like the coast. But
On the coast.
if you want to go into the capital, if you have a job that's here in the capital, or you like an urban place, the rent is a lot lower here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't think anybody who doesn't speak the language and doesn't have a fair amount of people skills could come here and to my town, for example, and find a nice place with 2 bedrooms for 500 euros. I was
Sure.
just giving you a personal example
Yeah.
of what is possible to find. So I think 700 to 900 would be a very nice place in most of these towns. Yeah.
Okay. So as far as like if you did do Podgorica,
But Gorica, yeah, it would be like 65% of the price.
so what is it like a 1-bedroom going for in the capital there? Would you say?
Maybe 250, 300, depending on your standard. If you want to look really nice, maybe 400.
Okay, so it's significantly less.
It's significantly less, yeah. Both price per square meter for purchase and for rental, yeah. But the
Have you
thing with
ever
the coast,
have you ever lived in the capital?
no.
No. Okay. Yeah, that's cheap, man, to live in the
Yeah,
capital.
it's very, very cheap. Very
And
cheap.
how is is it pretty? I mean, are there a lot of like theaters? Are there like cathedral? Is it a nice I have no idea.
I don't like the capital too much, so I wouldn't be the best person to ask if you wanted a
Gotcha.
more balanced opinion, because mine tends to be that I've been in so many stunning and fascinating capitals in Europe. If I wanted a capital life, I'd move to another country.
Gotcha.
Right? Hands down. There are so many capitals in Europe that are amazing to live in. So
Mhm.
I like a simpler town countryside life. And for me, that coast has everything that I need.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So as far as the cost of real estate, what can you buy a flat for or a property for?
So normally you'll see prices go between 1,400 per square meter to 2,400 per square meter, and
Okay.
higher if you go to these very exclusive developments. But that is the general price per square meter along the coast. Then if you want to buy some of these like UNESCO protected areas, that would be 2,000 to 2,500 per square meter, which is also super reasonable because prices in my city are the same. And I'm like, it's so much prettier to buy a place here.
Yeah.
And the price is literally the same.
So the average square meter, if you look at maybe 50 square meters, you're looking at 2,000 would be about 100 grand, 100,000, right?
That's only if you're looking to live within the UNESCO protected area of like Kotor, for example, and the Kotor Bay, which is one small part of the bay.
Yeah.
The rest of it, like I said, between 1,500, 1,800, these are very normal prices for decent stuff, very good real estate.
Wow.
Of course, the building quality can vary a lot, so it's better to know a little bit about it before just purchasing. I myself bought several apartments here in partnership with a few people, and it took me 2 months to literally scour the coast looking for all the deals to understand exactly what the market looked like. And I realized you can find cheaper apartments, but that could easily sacrifice quality of material in building.
Mm-hmm.
And that can give you a lot of problems as well, since it's coast and it can be very humid, so that could create building trouble.
Yeah. Do they have people that inspect properties when you're ready to buy? Can you like hire somebody to go in and inspect it to get
Um,
you?
I haven't heard of it, but I wouldn't say it's not possible to find. There must be some kind of service offered to a higher end of clientele. So expats who want that kind of a service, other people wouldn't use it, but I wouldn't know about it, to be honest.
Okay. Okay. And what is healthcare like over there?
Um, I wouldn't say it's very good from hearsay, and
Okay.
yet at the same time, I live maybe 7 kilometers away from a historical institute of what's it called, therapy, physical therapy. So people have been coming from a lot of Northern Europe and Russia for physical therapy for decades and decades and decades.
Okay.
So it can't be terrible, right? Like
Yeah.
it can be reasonable to a certain degree, but the problem is most specialists, if you have a very specific kind of problem or disease that develops, wouldn't even be living here on the coast. They would either
Mhm.
live in Podgorica or in Belgrade, the capital of the other nation, Serbia. So that gets a little bit tricky, I think, for healthcare.
Do they have like national health care where, or do you have to pay into a system?
Um, for example, when you open a company, everybody who gets employed in the company has automatic healthcare, right? So that's how I have my healthcare taken care of, my father's healthcare taken care of, etc. And it's very, very reasonable.
So that when you open a company, is there something that you have to pay in every month, or does the government just?
When you open a company, there's a price for the opening of the company itself, and then there's a price for the maintaining of accounting that the accounting company does for you, which is again very small. We're talking about 60 euros a month or something like this.
Gotcha.
And then you're paying a salary, and even if you're not paying yourself as an actual salary, you're still paying the government like 50, 60 euros for your salary. And this is the smallest you can pay, but it covers a health insurance as well.
Wow. Okay. So it's
So
it's
basically, I'm trying to tell you that for 1,300, 1,400 euros a year, your residency is taken care of, and you have health insurance. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That's excellent. All right. Getting around. How do you, we know how you get around. You get around by motorcycles. How do other?
Others get around by car a lot. There are some buses on the coast. I wouldn't say they're the most practical. By far, the most reliable buses are the ones on my coast, which is something I appreciate. Not that there are many of them, but they come by every half an hour. And they go from one side of the coast to the other side of the coast, just back and forth all the time. So if you schedule your time, it's pretty easy to get around.
Mhm.
And when I say mountains and sea, I literally mean mountains and sea. So there's not a huge area in between where the mountain finished and the sea started. So you
Mhm.
can walk up and down that main road very easily if you just get off the bus, right? It's
Yeah.
quite reasonable to get from location A to B or to get into town by bus.
Mhm. How,
And it's like
what's
€1. €1. There's monthly passes for like 20 or 25.
okay for per month, 20 to 25 per month.
That's a
Okay.
monthly pass that if like you really use the bus all the time, or else it's just like 70 cents to €1 for a ticket.
Gotcha. Per ride. Okay. Cool. And what do you do for fun entertainment in Montenegro?
Well, yeah, that's the only drawback to the wonderful life we have here. During the summer, there's a lot happening. Um, I'll actually explain to you what happens price-wise in the summer because one has to really know that before coming here. So basically, for 4 months out of the year, everything on the coast is super, super lively. There are plenty of things to go and do at night. During the day, there are live performances, some theater stuff, some festival stuff. It's active. But then the rest of the year, it really, really quiets down. So you kind of have to be the kind of person who brings their own fun with them. Or you are like me, who says, I need dancing. There's no dancing. I'm going to make dancing. right? So that's why I work together with another Argentine to start various tango groups across the coast, because that's one element of dancing that we really want to bring here. And then I know a couple of others who are also doing their styles of dance and both teaching it and trying to see how to organize more year-round parties, you could say, just because
Hmm.
we feel the need for that, right?
Hmm.
So it's basically like a lot of what is entertainment is based around the simplicity of the lifestyle here, which is basically you've got this beautiful sea, you've got amazing places to hike, all, you know, literally in my backyard, 30 minutes from my house is hiking trails. So it's all very natural, fun. Yeah, if you like that, it's got something for you almost all the time. Skiing here is quite good and super inexpensive. Like when I say super inexpensive, I really mean like super inexpensive. So basically for sports and for nature, all year round, you've got something to be doing.
Mm.
If you really like your clubs and your, I don't know, nightlife, bars are very popular here and people go to bars a lot. I wouldn't say there's a vibrant live music scene or a bunch of happening things in town all the time throughout the other months of the year off season.
Yeah, yeah. What is like the restaurants like? What is the cuisine like over there? The food in the restaurants.
Um, yeah, the cuisine is pretty basic, which is funny because they have a quality of product here, which is quite a bit higher than most of the rest of the world. And by the rest of the world, I do specifically mean the West. A lot of products here are quite naturally grown. Even beef, you know, it's that cow right there that's eating grass. So I know Americans like to say organic this, organic that, and they pay crazy prices for it. A lot of the stuff here is organic,
Sure.
which is amazing. So you're paying, you know, €1.50, €2 for this, but it's organic. Did you know that? That's pretty cool. I mean, like automatically, a lot of the produce is super decent quality, like not
Hmm.
some chemically altered, lab grown, mutated vegetable,
Right.
basically. So I appreciate the availability of these products to use at home in cooking.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go to restaurants, the typical food here is very meat based, which is difficult for vegetarians to get around. Very meat based. A lot of it is a variation of sausages, uh, hamburgers, and steaks.
Okay.
This is a lot of the food here in restaurants. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Do they do a lot of seafood on the coast there?
they do. They
Yeah.
do. But for some reason, fish here is extremely expensive.
Huh.
And yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, in a restaurant, fish is anywhere between 30 to 60 euros for, you know, a kilo.
Wow. Okay. So what would you say like in a typical restaurant an average meal would cost?
I would say like 15 euros per person.
15? Okay. All right.
But for example, my favorite cevapi, which is the local food here,
Yeah.
in most restaurants, it costs maybe €6 plus a drink, 7.5 euros. Okay. And then the place I go to, which actually has the best quality meat, it costs €3.
Okay.
So it
And
really
that's
just
called a
depends.
chalape.
Cevapi.
Shivape.
Cevapi, yeah.
Shivape. How do you spell that?
It's a C with a diagonal dash above it.
Okay.
EVAPI. And it's basically a sausage without the wrapping.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
they can be quite tasty if you know where to find them.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
good quality ones. Yeah, I wouldn't say local cuisine is astounding at all. It's
Yeah,
one of the
okay.
drawbacks and also one of the opportunities. I mean,
Sure. You got good product, it just turns you into a better chef.
exactly.
So all right, we talked about the flat costs. We didn't Are utilities when you do rent, are they included?
No, no,
No.
utilities are usually not included. But I would say if you average it out over 12 months, water is very little, like 15 euros. And then heating in the winter can get pretty high. There's no
Mhm.
central heating here, like in other Eastern European countries. Um, and then in the summer, you probably run aircon a lot because it gets hot. it averages out to maybe 50 euros a month, I would say.
Okay.
60 euros a month.
All right. Okay. It's yeah, it is incredibly affordable there. Now you touched on safety, and everybody wants to know about safety in every country that I interview. So are there any concerns in Montenegro as far as safety?
One time somebody took a dress that was hanging in my balcony. And the funny thing is, I don't know why they would do that, because normal people here don't do that. And most of them are normal. I mean, there aren't people who steal on the streets at all. To give you an extreme angle on this, I will leave my phone on the cafe table and go take a bathroom break, or even go over to the waterfront and forget about my phone, and it'll still be there when I get back. No one's going to touch it. I even leave the keys in my motorcycle sometimes. Now, that wouldn't be advisable all the time, but
Yeah.
that's just how safe I feel here, because the area is ridiculously safe, very small. Everybody knows everybody. Nobody's going to take something from foreigners or from other locals.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And okay. And then what is the basically the last thing I have is like it gets cold there. But what is the year-round average temperature for Montenegro?
I wouldn't know how to answer that. The seasons are basically quite hot in the summer, but not sweltering. I'm talking about 33, 34. Then in the winter, it'll get down on the coast to this winter. We had very nice winter. It was maybe 6, 7, 8 degrees during the day, 2 degrees at night, rarely goes below 0.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you have the mountains, covered in snow. So it's pretty gorgeous.
Yeah.
Then it does rain a lot in the winter. So November, December, February, March, these are rainy months, and it rains quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a bit. I think we get like 4 months of rain out of the year.
Okay.
So not as bad as Washington.
Yeah.
But definitely a lot of rain. That's why it's so green.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So that's pretty much all I have. We've covered everything.
Well, some of these questions that you've given me, I'm answering more in depth in this series of articles I'm uploading to my blog right now.
Okay.
Just because if you ask me for an answer off the top of my head, I can't scan down all the lists of reasons. So
Sure.
I've tried to give you a general idea of what some of those are, and what the cost of living would be like for someone here. As you can see, it's quite low. And the drawback, of course, is that it's not so lively. It's very small towns, very small populations, especially during the off-season times.
Mm-hmm.
But one point that we touched on earlier that I didn't clarify enough was that these prices for rental change very greatly in the summertime. So only uninformed people would be coming here in May and June and looking for a place. That would be a very bad time to do that, because in the summertime, the same property is worth 2,000 euros a month.
Sure.
So like really the prices go crazy during the high season. 4 times as much, 5 times as much. So really, to get that 12-month contract, or if you want to stay here permanently, the best time is to come in autumn, when people know that they have 7 months of no business ahead of them, and they're willing to, find a better, more amicable resolution. Also, we're getting a lot of people from Belarus and Ukraine right now, and these are people usually who have quite a bit of monetary means, obviously, or else they wouldn't be coming here. And that is making demand go through the roof. So easily those prices that I've quoted you have been changing in the last month, and they could be changing if this continues.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. That's great information. Yeah, thank you so much. Valentino, is there anything else that people that you can think of that could be beneficial for the listeners to know about Montenegro?
Well, something that I find very attractive about this whole part of the world, the Balkans, is that you will see a construction worker, a musician, an architect, and a government employee all having a beer or coffee in the same place, in the same cafe. Okay, because everybody here is supposed to be, in Yugoslav times, entitled to a reasonable quality of life. And this is something I can really appreciate, right? Because it means there's a lot less snobbery here than in other parts of the world. And I'm sorry, but I'm really not, I can't live where snobbery is just part of society. It's very difficult for me. Back in Lima, I felt uncomfortable with this idea of social castes, and I appreciate what the past socialist heritage has left people with, which is a feeling of like we're all, you know, reasonably at the same level of being able to enjoy life, being able to deserve a good life, to deserve other people's respect, and to treat each other politely. Which is something they do a lot here, and I'm very fond of. Of course, there are tons of cultural oddities that would take you at least a year or two to go discovering. But overall, I would say people here are very friendly, quite open, especially if you try to learn the language. They become extremely helpful, very amicable, short-tempered, very strong temperaments, but polite and pleasant in normal day affairs. So out of all the places I've been, this is an easy place to call home. Tax is also extremely low and very reasonable. And by low, I'm talking about like 9%, I think it is.
Yeah.
And that just makes it very attractive to people who want to open businesses or who want to work outside of the country as well.
Yeah, that's great, man. I just hope that I hope that Montenegro doesn't change the way other places.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to be changing in the next 5 years, but from my perspective, I think in the next 5 years at least, those changes are probably going to be good ones, because people like me are coming here a lot because there's so much this place has to offer to us.
Yeah.
And so many opportunities for us to do what we do and, you know, earn a good living and get by in a place like this.
Yeah.
So I think the next 5 years, 6 years here is going to be very good.
Yeah, I'm talking in terms of where everybody can come together, and there's a quality of life that everybody can achieve there, and there's no really, you know, like in places in New York or California, there's people that make tremendous amounts of money and they have a status, and on top of that comes ego, and then there's separation from others. And it sounds to me like Montenegro is a very special place like that.
Well, a lot of what I was telling you is this Yugoslav heritage, which no longer exists, correct? It's heritage, it's no longer practice. So of course there is a growing number of these high status individuals who have developed huge residential luxury properties 10 years ago, and now they are their own bubble, right?
Okay. Yeah,
of course, that also exists here. But in general, the rest of the people have a pretty nice middle ground. There isn't like, you know, 5 social statuses. There's like those guys and most everybody else. So I like that a lot.
Yeah. It sounds great, man. Well, Valentino Devasco, man, thank you so much for sharing all of your information and your tips and expertise on Montenegro. Truly appreciate it, man.
Sure, man. My pleasure. If anybody wants to check this place out, you can write me to my blog or find out more information through my personal contacts as well.
And that is at Valentino Devasco, DEVASCO.blogspot.com. That's going to be at the end of the podcast as well. You have the tango business going on as well, right?
Yeah, this is something we've been working on for the last 6 months, and it's going very nicely. I also perform a lot, so I travel to different towns and do lectures on world culture, on travel culture, and on how tolerance helps build stronger societies, basically.
That's fantastic, man. Thanks again for doing this, and I love the work you're doing. And thanks again, Valentino.
My pleasure.
Have a great evening, man.